Single mothers from poor families are always last.
Bank clerk Smith, laughing crudely and ridiculing me. At first, I couldn't comprehend his words. No, I didn't want to understand it. What a rude man he is. If it were allowed, I'd want to punch him right in the face right now.
We'll call the poor folks later. It's a waste of time.
This guy seems oblivious to how he's being viewed by those around him. Everyone frowns at his behavior, casting cold glances his way. In that charged atmosphere, my darling daughter spoke up.
Let's transfer all $1.2 billion to the bank next door.
Immediately after that, this bank clerk was about to experience hell. I am Jessica Thompson. I'm just a regular mom who adores her daughter. And I am a single mother living with my daughter, Emily. We were living in a small apartment with good sunlight, but it was getting cramped with a 12-year-old child. With Emily, about to start middle school, I thought it would be a good time to move. There's another reason I started considering to move. Recently, some minor troubles have been happening, which made me originally think about leaving this apartment. The trouble was related to the parking lot. Occasionally, someone would park in the monthly parking spot I rented without permission.
Mom, they're parked there again.
Really, what a hassle. The car was unmistakably a luxury vehicle, noticeable to anyone who saw it. It seemed the car was used for work purposes, as it would disappear at night. However, whenever I returned home early due to work, the luxury car would be parked there, preventing me from parking my own car. This left me no choice but to kill time by shopping or running errands. Frankly, it's a nuisance. I'm paying every month to park my car there. Certainly not for allowing unauthorized parking. Excuse me, that car is parked there again. Yes, please handle it. Contacting the management company for a warning was ineffective. So, I decided to contact the police.
This sort of parking on private property like this is a civil non-intervention matter.
Is that so?
Well, we can patrol and give a verbal warning to the car owner if necessary.
The police were hesitant due to their policy of non-intervention in civil matters, but they promised to give a verbal warning to the owner as soon as they identified them. However, this seemed to have angered the luxury car's owner.
Hey, you're the one who told the cops about me.
One day, while returning from shopping with Emily, we were confronted by the owner of the luxury car, who had been lying in wait. As we stood there, frozen from the sudden outburst, the man started yelling at us even more furiously. Because of what you said to the police, I was humiliated. I was just borrowing it for a little while. You're too narrow-minded, he ranted. If I had been alone, I might have yelled back. In fact, I might have turned the tables on him. But now, Emily is with me. I just patiently listened until he finished his tirade.
I'll remember your face.
Having said what he wanted to say, the man stormed off, still shouting. I'm sorry, Emily. That must have been scary for you.
No, I'm fine.
Due to this frightening experience, we decided to move earlier than planned. Luckily, we found a nice apartment that met our criteria and looked forward to living in our new home. During the moving process, I needed to go to the bank, so I took Emily, who was on summer break, with me.
Wow, it's pretty crowded here.
Yes, it seems we'll have to wait. Is that okay?
It's fine. I brought a book to kill time.
The bank was quite busy, and there seemed to be a wait. As I was about to take a number and wait my turn, I heard a sudden exclamation. "Ah!" Looking towards the source of the voice, I saw a middle-aged man staring at me. His face seemed familiar. He was the owner of the luxury car, who had yelled at us.
Oh, that man. He's the one who parked his car without permission, right? And instead of apologizing, he yelled at us.
Emily remarked in a normal voice, having recognized him too. The man's loud voice had already drawn attention, and now the whispers began to spread among the people around. "You shouldn't speak ill of others."
Okay.
I didn't confirm or deny her statement, just gently corrected her. The man was wearing a nameplate that read Smith. So he works here, I thought, and found him turn red and look down. I took a number and motioned for Emily to sit down on a sofa with me. Emily's bravery might have come from me. With that thought in mind, I waited to be called.
Isn't this taking too long?
Exactly. Maybe we should ask about it. But even after an hour, there was no sign of our number being called. The call number had long passed my turn. People who had numbers after mine had already finished their business and left. I stood up and approached the lady at the counter. "Excuse me, it seems my number still hasn't been called." The woman was wearing a nameplate that read Johnson. Just as Johnson, with a pale face, was about to say something, he got interrupted.
Hey, Johnson.
Suddenly, Smith stepped in and stopped her. Startled, Johnson shuddered.
"Please wait a little longer,"
she said with difficulty, bowing her head. "Okay," I replied, though feeling something was amiss. Smith watched me with a slight grin as I reacted that way. It was honestly unpleasant, but I chose to ignore it.
What did they say?
They said to wait a little longer.
Is that so?
Emily looked unsatisfied, but waited quietly. Time passed, and still, we weren't called. Emily had finished her book and was fidgeting. "I'll go ask again." Telling that to Emily, I asked Johnson again, but got the same response as before. Suspicious, I asked another bank clerk. That clerk also looked down, repeating, "Please wait a little longer." In that situation, Smith looked at me with a triumphant expression. I couldn't help but meet his eyes, and upon noticing my attention, he smirked and spoke.
You're a single mother, right? Single moms, especially the poor ones, are always the last.
What? What did this man just say? Not sure if it was my lack of understanding that was funny, but Smith started laughing at me as if to mock me.
We're not going to waste other customers' time on someone like you. We'll call the poor folks later. What a waste of time.
At those words, rage momentarily whitened my mind. Imagining landing a solid punch on his face, I observed Smith and the surroundings. Unaware or indifferent to the disapproving faces around, Smith continued to laugh crudely. Some even cast cold glances at him. Probably, this was his spiteful response to being called out for illegal parking, and what Emily had said earlier. Several clerks, including Johnson, are looking pale and downcast. I was infuriated by such childish behavior from a grown man. So, is this the policy of this bank, to serve those without money last? I raised my voice deliberately loud enough for others to hear. More and more people around started gathering their gazes, coldly staring and whispering about Smith, who seemed oblivious to it. He kept smirking and looked down at me as if he was superior. Just because I'm a single mother doesn't mean I'm cool, right? Even if I were, I'm still a customer who deposits money in this bank. Shouldn't I be treated the same as other customers?
You probably just have a few thousand in there, right? It's always those living in cheap apartments and driving compact cars who talk like that.
He said that mockingly and laughed at me. That's it. I won't forgive this anymore. At that moment, Emily, with a displeased look on her face, came up to me. And while glaring at Smith, she opened her mouth to speak.
Hey, Mom, instead of this bank with such an unpleasant man, let's move all of our $1.2 billion to the bank next door.
Yes, we should. I agreed, smiling at my daughter's words.
What are you talking about, kid? You mean $1.2, right?
Saying that, Smith sneered. I slammed our passbooks in front of him. Why don't you check for yourself then? At my words, Smith casually opened his bank book with a look of confidence. His expression turned pale in seconds. In response, this time I had a triumphant look on my face. In fact, I am a company president. I took over the business from my husband, who passed away 10 years ago. My husband, Jake, started an ID company during his college days.
My dream is to grow this company and bring joy to many people.
True to his word, the company started small, but Jake had the talent and it grew rapidly, becoming larger and larger.
I'll get Jessica to help out too.
Of course, this company is my dream too. Originally, Jake and I were business partners. We were classmates in college and also members of the team that started the company together.
Jessica, would you come with me?
Yes, it sounds exciting.
Also, I want you to be my girlfriend.
We started dating when we graduated from college. Since then, I've been working hard alongside Jake. The company we began with a few members grew to over 100 employees in 10 years.
We've come this far because you were there, Jessica.
That's true. I could keep going too, because you were there, Jake. And on our 10th anniversary, Jake proposed to me.
I want Jessica to be the one I share the rest of my life with.
Jake said to me. By the way, the proposal happened at a restaurant with a beautiful night view, a rare outing for us. Normally, we never go to fancy restaurants, just sticking to bars and the like. So both Jake and I were super nervous about it. But after he proposed, I realized that Jake's nervousness wasn't just about that. Yes, I'd be delighted.
Oh, good.
As I nodded, close to tears, Jake's tension visibly melted away. He beamed back, his face alight with joy. It's a fond memory, how I thought, I want to support this man for life, and smiled back wholeheartedly. Our married life with Jake was filled with happiness every day. No matter how tired we were from work, being at home with each other was always comforting.
Jessica, I'll cook dinner tonight.
Thank you. Then, I'll take care of the laundry.
Thanks for doing that.
We always express gratitude for shared household tasks and exchange gifts on anniversaries. We regularly go on dates, always sharing our honest feelings with each other. It was a truly loving life.
I'm so glad I met you, Jessica.
You too?
Let's make sure our child is as happy as we are.
Yes, we must make our child very happy. Emily was born 2 years after we got married. We had discussed that if we had a daughter, her middle name would be mine, and if it was a son, we would name him after Jake.
She's a cute girl.
Sure, for her name.
I've been thinking, how about Emily?
Yes, I love it. And so, we named our daughter Emily. Jake doted on her and was actively involved in parenting.
I'll take care of her tonight. You get some rest?
Thank you. We took turns dealing with the night crying, and we had become quite adept at changing diapers. I bought a blender for making baby food, but since Emily didn't eat much, it ended up being underused.
Well, it's another good memory.
Yes, let's tell Emily when she's older. It'll be a funny story.
Exactly.
Jake was so smitten with Emily that he often accidentally spoke to his employees in baby talk.
Hey, boss. You're doing the baby talk again.
Oh, sorry. Forget that.
How many times is this now?
Really such a doting parent, aren't you?
The employees watched Jake fondly, and I was secretly smiling too. When Emily started crawling, Jake would crawl after her, and when she began walking, he was overly protective, always staying close, in case she fell. Emily adored Jake, and said "da-da" before Mama.
Did you hear that, Jessica? She just said da-da.
Yes, I heard.
Yay, Emily called me da-da. She called me da-da.
Although I was slightly taken aback by Jake's tearful joy, I felt happy. But our happy family life was abruptly struck by misfortune. Jake, Emily has a fever. I'm going to leave work early.
Okay. Should I come along too?
It's okay. I'll leave first. Shortly after I returned from maternity leave, I got a call from Emily's daycare that she had a fever. After getting permission from Jake, I left work early, picked up Emily from daycare, and took her to the pediatrician. It's gotten so late. Jake must be worried. It was past 7 p.m. by the time we left the crowded clinic. What's this? Then, in front of the apartment building, there were lots of police cars and ambulances. I was wondering what had happened when.
It's a traffic accident.
How scary. I hope the driver who got rear-ended is okay.
I heard passers-by whispering about it. As I got closer, I learned that a car had run a red light and caused the accident. And then, the car that was hit by another running a red light and crashed into a pole was a car I knew all too well. Jake. It was supposed to be Jake's car. The police confirmed that Jake had been in the car. He was trapped between the pole and the other car and had passed away. In the car, I found a bag with Emily's favorite yogurt and ice cream. He must have bought it, thinking about what Emily, who had a fever, could eat. But now, they were ruined. If only I had asked him to come with me. I don't remember much after that. Our parents, who lived far away, rushed over.
Poor Jessica.
Leaving little Emily behind. Such a tragedy.
I vaguely remember them being by my side. They handled all the arrangements while I was in a daze. Everyone cried over Jake's sudden departure. Unaware of everything, Emily alone was beaming with a smile at the people who had gathered. This only deepened the sadness. The fact that Jake was gone. The horrific scene of the traffic accident. Remembering this, I sold the apartment we lived in at the time and rented a smaller apartment. I rented a small apartment, just right for Emily and me. I'll protect Emily for both of us, Jake. I took over Jake's role as president of the company. No one objected, and everyone supported me. I was grateful for that. Jake had left a substantial inheritance for Emily's sake. But I would have preferred Jake's presence over any amount of money. I would have been content with a life of poverty, if only Jake were with us. Still, for Emily's sake, I decided to love and protect her as Jake would have. Did you get a good look, Smith? I asked the pale-faced Smith. Is it just a small amount of money to you? In response to my question, Smith just stood there, his face red and trembling, without saying a word. Was it shame or anger? Since he remained silent, I decided to take action. I cannot entrust my assets to a bank with a clerk like you. I will cease all transactions here. I declared to Smith and smiled at Johnson, who had been anxiously watching us. Could you please call the branch manager? This person is not suitable for discussion.
Yes, right away.
Johnson hurried off to fetch the branch manager. Moments later, the branch manager arrived, looking flustered.
Mrs. Thompson, it's been a while. What can I do for you today?
I'm not sure how Johnson introduced me, but the branch manager seemed quite flustered, his voice sounding a bit off.
She really is the president.
Seeing the branch manager bow his head, Smith muttered to himself, while looking at me. I handed the useless number ticket to the branch manager. I wasn't called even after waiting for so long, so when I asked Smith, he said that single mothers and poor people are served last. Don't steal other customers' time. Wait your turn, he said. I can't wait any longer. I'd like to do business with the bank next door from now on. The branch manager turned pale at my words.
Don't believe it. I have a proof.
Saying that, Emily started using her smartphone. I had given her a smartphone for safety and security reasons. It seemed she had recorded our earlier conversation on it. From Emily's smartphone, the earlier abusive words of Smith played out. Oh, you recorded it?
Yay.
I'm so sorry.
Presented with such evidence, the branch manager desperately pleaded an apology. Nearby, Smith was still looking down, unchanged from earlier.
Please, we can't lose your business. It would put us in a very difficult position.
Because he ranted at me about being cool, you know? I'm sure it's not a big deal for you to do business with me, is it? Is it the bank's policy to put off poor people in the first place? If others have been treated like this, I don't want any relationship with a bank that lacks basic human rights awareness. You never know what might happen next. That's what trust is, right?
You're absolutely right. I'm very sorry.
The branch manager kept apologizing, nearly in tears. I'm starting to feel sorry for the branch manager. It's not his fault, it's Smith's. Smith remained silent, still trembling. At this rate, nothing will be resolved. Smith, do you have something to say? He suddenly looked up.
You're just living off your husband's inheritance. How dare you talk like that? Being a woman.
His yelling echoed throughout the bank. The situation then escalated into a storm of verbal abuse.
You must be relieved your husband is gone. Just happy to have his money. All women think like that.
Stop it.
The branch manager tried to intervene, but Smith was uncontrollable and beyond anyone's help. I stepped back with Emily and glared at him. "Shut up!" I shouted back. "You know nothing. Don't say such things." Smith was taken aback, having never been yelled at before. I wanted my husband to live. I didn't care about the money. Just wanted him by my side. To watch our daughter grow together, to age together. That was all I wanted. I couldn't stop the tears that naturally welled up in my eyes. I couldn't tell if it was frustration or sadness. I had vowed not to cry in front of Emily, but couldn't stop. Emily. However, in that moment, Emily gently took my hand. And she smiled at me.
"Yes, we are a single mother family, but that's not bad. I'm happy. I miss Dad, but Mom loves me so much. What does it matter to you if we're a single mother family? Have we caused you any trouble? The only nuisance here is you, isn't it? Harassing us based on your assumptions, making others apologize for you. You illegally parked in our lot and got angry when called out. Even as a child, I think adults like you are unbelievable. You have a poor heart."
Emily was desperately trying to convey her feelings, her voice turning into a tearful shout towards the end. I hugged my daughter tightly. How she had grown up before I even realized it. Smith still seemed to want to say something. However, it seemed like he was completely out-argued by an elementary schooler.
You guys, you guys.
He kept repeating. It was then that someone reprimanded Smith.
"Let's stop this, Smith. We can't listen to you anymore."
It was Johnson. She looked straight at him.
Damn it.
Smith spat out and ran off somewhere.
Wait.
The branch manager chased after him. Running away when you can argue back? How childish.
"I'm very sorry for the discomfort caused."
Johnson apologized sincerely.
"If you wish to transfer your deposits to another bank, I'll assist with the procedures."
And with that, she bowed her head. She must have been a victim of Smith too. Probably pressured into not opposing him. Yet, she stood up for us this time. "No, with someone like you here, I'll stay." I declined politely. I'm sorry for my lack of composure. I apologized too. Johnson smiled kindly at Emily.
"What a gentle child you have."
Johnson, who had complimented Emily, shared that she also had a young daughter. Her daughter is quiet, but seems like a child with a strong core.
"I'll raise her to be kind and strong like Emily,"
said Johnson, expressing her thoughts. Emily blushed and hid behind me at her words. We never saw Smith at the bank again. What happened to Smith?
He was.
Apparently, he was fired for misconduct. In addition to the incident the other day, it came to light that he had been illegally parking in various places. He had been in trouble with the police several times, receiving tickets and driving without a license. He was caught for this and consequently faced disciplinary action.
That's the story.
Well, he got what he deserved. Johnson, now a familiar face, informed me. Johnson now comes to see me for outside work. We have built a good relationship, including in our personal lives.
My daughter wants to play with Emily again.
Oh, Emily was also saying she'd love to. So let's get together sometime soon.
Yes, please.
When Emily played with Johnson's daughter, she quickly grew fond of Emily. Calling her big sister affectionately, Emily, too, took her role seriously, saying, "I'm her big sister. I have no intention of spending my life with anyone other than Jake, so I can't give Emily a sibling." Maybe Emily understands that, as she seems to dote on the little girl even more. Later, we moved to a new apartment in the city center. Living there brings back memories of the days when the three of us lived together. Dad used to follow you around, remember?
Oh, really?
But I realized the happy memories outweighed the sadness.
I just couldn't help it because Emily was so adorable.
I often feel like Jake is still close by. It feels like he's right there when I look back, smiling at us.
Was Dad always smiling?
Yes, he was.
I kind of remember him, always smiling, and I loved him so much. So when everyone was crying, I thought smiling like him would make them happy too.
Her words took me by surprise. I see. Emily was smiling back then, trying to make everyone laugh just like Jake did. That kindness, she really takes after Jake in that way. That's just like your dad.
Really?
Now, I can laugh and say that. And that's because of the happy memories I have with Jake. I smiled towards heaven, thinking of him. Then, I showed Emily a photo of Jake.
Dad, I've got so much to tell you.
Emily, gazing at Jake's photo, reports everything that's happened so far. As I watched over the situation, the doorbell rang.
Jessica, Emily.
Startled by the voice and turning around, I saw Jake's mother, Mel, standing there. She smiled kindly at Emily.
Thank you for still thinking of him, Jessica.
No, Jake gave me Emily and so many memories.
He always talked about you.
I saw Mel gazing into the distance, as if recalling memories. She smiles at me kindly.
He'd want you two to be happy.
I know, that's just like Jake. Jake would probably prefer us smiling rather than crying over him. Yet, I'll never forget him.
Why don't you come over sometime?
Really?
It's a bit far, but I'd like to talk about Jake.
Emily would be happy too. Then Emily and I spent a few days at my in-laws' place. I learned things about Jake I never knew, and we had a wonderful time. I could almost hear Jake saying, "Stop, it's embarrassing." I had always believed that my daughter needed to be protected at all times. However, Emily grew up to be remarkable and ended up protecting me. In those moments, she seemed incredibly dependable.
Mom, my middle school uniform arrived.
Oh, it looks great. Emily is no longer just someone to be protected. We are not just in a relationship of protecting and being protected. We intend to live our lives hand in hand. Let's have a lavish dinner tonight to celebrate Emily's start of middle school.
Yay! I want to eat Mom's hamburgers.
All right, I'll make them. I vowed to continue making Emily happy, for Jake's sake too. You know, Dad also loved my hamburgers.
Sounds like I would have gotten along great with Dad.
Of course, you are his daughter. Emily beamed at that. There might be times ahead when she struggles with not having a father. Nonetheless, I'll stay close to her heart and grow together. By the way, Johnson mentioned that she wants to celebrate with us next time, so she suggested we all go out for a meal together.
Got it. I promise to help her daughter with her studies too.
You two have become quite close.
Yay! I'm her big sister.
I plan to do for Emily what Jake would have wanted. So, keep watching over us, okay? I felt like Jake was smiling somewhere.
Who hired this high school graduate? He's a disgrace to the company.
The voice of the newly appointed CEO, Samantha, echoed through the office. I felt increasingly uncomfortable in the buzzing workplace. Samantha didn't miss the instant reaction and smiled winningly.
Get him fired immediately. If you leave people like garbage forever, it will affect other people.
Sure, I'll fire him right away.
Samantha ordered it, and Mike, the department head, responded with a grin. Mike had always been tough on me. He wanted to get rid of me, no doubt about it. Leaving 2 triumphant looks behind, I left the office. But I wasn't going down without a fight. They had no idea that I was going to fire back a few days later. I could already see the 2 crying and apologizing. My name is John Smith. I turned 40 this spring, just an ordinary middle-aged guy. Until last month, I worked as an office clerk at a company, but the company began downsizing due to the recession. I was the first target, having aged without ever attaining a managerial position. Having changed jobs before, I wasn't too devastated, but it was still a shock when I was laid off. I've been working hard all my life. Maybe I can afford to take it easy for half a year. Born into a low-income family, I was the only one among my friends who chose to work right after high school, while everyone else naturally went on to university. We were all close during elementary school, but as we moved on to high school, I gradually became isolated due to my poverty. The turning point was towards the end of high school. I guess I was a distraction to them, not going to university at a time when everyone else was stressed and irritable about their studies. Before I knew it, I hardly had anyone I could call a friend. In such a situation, there was only one man who could talk to me as an equal. That was Kevin. His family owned a business, and he had lived a wealthy life from his birth. Our circumstances were complete opposites, yet he was a man with surprisingly little confidence in himself. Crushed by his parents' expectations, Kevin often complained that talking to me, who didn't treat him any differently, was when he felt most at ease.
I'm destined to take over my dad's company, so I can choose what I really want to do. I have to study I don't like, even at home. I can stand it.
But you're doing your best, which is amazing. I will work hard too, and become just as wealthy as you.
If I manage to take over the company, let's work together. Having you around would make me more motivated.
I hadn't been in touch with him whom I had made such a promise to since high school graduation. He must be busy with his daily life. I wonder what Kevin thinks if he sees that I am unemployed. As these thoughts crossed my mind, a single phone call drastically changed my life. About a week after I quit my job, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. Picking up the phone without much thought, I heard a man's voice, sounding rather nervous.
Hello, is this John speaking?
Yes, it's me. And may I ask who's calling?
I'm relieved. I was worried you might have changed your number.
When I identified myself, the caller's voice brightened up as if a flower had bloomed.
It's me. I'm Kevin, your friend from high school. Do you remember me?
I was surprised since I had been thinking about Kevin recently. We hadn't been in touch for over 10 years, so recognizing his voice was unexpected. My spirits lifted, momentarily forgetting about being laid off. It's been so long. How many years has it been? How have you been?
I've been getting by. I have something to report to you. Next month, I'll officially take over my father's company. I'm finally going to be the CEO.
That's amazing. You've always worked hard since our school days. Seeing him struggle yet persevere, I felt genuinely happy, as if it were my own achievement.
Thank you. By the way, John, what are you doing now?
Asked by Kevin, I hesitated slightly. I remembered that I was fired just a few days ago, and I felt the difference between me and him. Feeling pitiful for getting depressed over my situation compared to my friend even as an adult. I laughed self-deprecatingly and shared my current status. I was laid off from the company I worked at for several years. Just the other day, I've been working nonstop, so I thought about taking a little break. To my surprise, Kevin reacted unexpectedly.
That's perfect. Actually, I called because I want to hire you. Do you remember the promise we made back in school?
The promise that you wanted to work with me once you became the president. I remember, but are you serious? For me, jobless, there couldn't be a better offer. However, things wouldn't be that simple. As I hesitated, Kevin sighed deeply on the other end of the phone.
I'm becoming the president, but honestly, I don't feel cut out for something so grand. I want someone I can trust to support me. Everyone in the company competes for position and prestige. It's unsettling. That's why I need someone reliable like you, John.
Kevin's company is a major enterprise, well known in the region. With many ambitious employees, there must be a lot of internal competition. He doesn't like such a tense atmosphere. But his effort to take over the company must have been immense, beyond my imagination. I'm honored that you still rely on me. Please let me work with you.
Thank you. Let's make this company better together. I have a job that I can confidently entrust to you.
And so, I ended up joining Kevin's company. The scale of this new workplace was incomparable to the previous company I had worked for, and I felt my spine straighten on my first day. Kevin wanted me to work as his right-hand man. However, I requested to start from the bottom for a few years, so I was assigned to a certain department. My assignment was in the sales department, and my boss, Mike, who is the department head, was a strong-willed man.
You are lucky to be hired at your age. Middle-aged men like you are not needed in this company. What was the new president thinking?
Mike, just 5 years older than me, spat these words at our first meeting. Ambitious Mike seemed unhappy about Kevin becoming the president.
Are you a high school graduate? You're incompetent. So don't go against what I say. Just obey orders silently. Got it?
No wonder Kevin felt uneasy with such employees around. I felt dizzy from Mike's personal attacks, but I couldn't show weakness, being expected to perform. However, since I was expected by Kevin, I couldn't express my weakness. I forced a smile and made up my mind. Yes, I look forward to your guidance and support. My days began to feel like I was nothing more than a servant to Mike. I was visiting several companies daily to secure contracts, with no time even for lunch. If my progress was even slightly poor, Mike would yell at me so loudly that I would shrink. He exerted pressure on other employees too, but it felt somewhat different with me.
John, you're so dumb you should work through meal times. It's disrespectful to others. Even with that, You won't measure up to me. Realize you're just stealing your salary.
Mike's demands escalated day by day. He would often assign me additional work just before the end of the workday. On such days, I missed the last train home. It was tough on my not-so-young body. Are athletes like that? They're malicious. I was staring at my computer in the dark office, and Kevin came to me with a cup of coffee.
Working overtime again today? Remember, your health is your capital. Don't overdo it.
You're one to talk, always working late yourself.
I can't relax unless I'm pushing myself. Plus, my wife is so strong-willed, I feel small at home.
Even the president of a big company feels powerless at home. Amid these hectic days, this time might have been the most calming for me. Seeing my friends striving so hard up close gave me strength too. Despite Mike's relentless, demeaning instructions, I persevered through sheer tenacity. Then, a month later, something happened that shook me. Kevin collapsed due to poor health. Clearly a result of his excessive work. Given his personality, the stress of carrying such a big company must have been too much for Kevin. He decided to take a 6-month leave from the company to focus on his treatment.
I'm sorry, I'm the president, but I'm so unreliable.
You're an idiot. You just overworked yourself. You better get well and return because I'll watch the company for you.
John, you're dependable. That's quite the line for someone only months into the job. Thank you so much.
Until he returns, I have to cling to this company alone. Since I have been working since I graduated from high school, I was physically strong. By the time Kevin returns, I want to achieve something I can be proud of, so I put even more effort into my sales rounds. Gradually, I started getting contracts and building good relationships with other companies, slowly beginning to see results. Mike, the department head, didn't seem too pleased when I secured contracts.
Anybody could do that job. Don't get it twisted. Without our company's name, a high school grad like you wouldn't get the time of day. Remember that.
After that, Mike began cutting into my sales time, piling on clerical work relentlessly. I had to work more overtime to balance office work and sales. Gradually, I had more days where I couldn't even catch the last train home. And I heard Kevin's hospital stay might extend. Consequently, Kevin's wife took over as the interim president.
I am Samantha, stepping in until Kevin's return. I look forward to everyone's hard work.
I had an impression of her being strong-willed from Kevin's stories, but hearing her speak and seeing her commanding presence straightened my spine. However, I thought that I had no contact with Samantha, who became the president, but that was my mistake. For some reason, Samantha frequently visited the sales department.
Sales are the backbone of the company. It's only right that I care about it.
Saying this, she often summoned Mike for meetings in the conference room, casting stern looks at other employees. She seemed to favor Mike, appearing a bit softer in his presence. They were close in age, and I felt their relationship was close. However, I had no time to worry about such things. After meeting with Mike, Samantha would invariably come to me.
So, you're the John that my husband mentioned. What can you do?
I have developed sales skills and have already secured some contracts and established key clients. I have a negotiation scheduled for this afternoon as well.
You're doing the same gritty work as a new hire at your age. Aren't you ashamed?
Suddenly confronted with such words, I was at a loss for words.
With the company, as long as you're getting contracts, that's what matters. If I think you're even slightly useless, I'll fire you on the spot.
This was no longer a conversation but a one-sided abuse against me from her. I was stunned that Kevin's wife was such a different character to Kevin. Kevin said he'd rather be at work than home. No wonder, with a wife like that. Perhaps Kevin's hospitalization was his most peaceful time, which made me feel conflicted as his friend. While I was working late, Mike and Samantha came over. They have been interrupting my work.
Pitiful, isn't it? All this overtime and no extra pay for you. Everyone else finishes their work within business hours, so you're the problem.
It's a shame for you. Samantha is taking us out for drinks now, and you're stuck with your work. Well, we'll enjoy ourselves while you keep at the overtime.
Their lowly harassment was so childish it almost made me laugh. Just a little more patience, I muttered to myself and faced the computer again. I worked in a workplace full of enemies without causing trouble, but one day I got into trouble. Another employee had botched a deal, and it seemed like the contract might be terminated. Fortunately, I had a close partner at the client, so I worked with a troubled employee to solve the problem. We struggled but managed to prevent the contract termination. However, it took so much time that it slightly impacted my sales performance. Still, I barely met my quota. I was relieved for a moment, but Samantha came to the sales department with a red face, knowing where she had heard it from.
John, are you aware of your performance this month?
Yes, there were some glitches, but I did meet my quota.
You should be achieving much more than just the quota. Don't you feel any gratitude to the company that gave you a chance, considering your incompetence?
In front of the other employees, Samantha scolded me loudly. A colleague I had helped with a negotiation came to my defense, but Samantha dismissed it.
You think that if you make allies like that, someone will help you. I know what you're trying to do. That's how you approached my husband. I know you were his friend from school, but you are a scumbag.
That's not true. My relationship with Kevin, it's not like that. I genuinely respect him as my friend. Isn't this beyond the scope of work? When I finally stood up for myself, Samantha was taken aback. She must have thought I would always be docile, but I can't stay quiet when my friendship is under attack. After a moment of silence, as Samantha and I were locked in a stare, Mike came over with a smug grin.
What's all this din? The newbie seems to be causing quite a stir.
Then, Samantha clung to Mike as if she had found an ally.
John just barely met his quota, and now he's acting all high and mighty. Seems like he has no sense of gratitude towards the company.
Mike's arrival seemed to energize Samantha, and I began to feel irritated. I hadn't done anything wrong, and this conversation was a waste of time. Thinking it was time to end this, I was about to back down when Mike said,
Well, it can't be helped. After all, this guy is a high school graduate. You can't live without being shameless, right?
What? He's a high school graduate?
Samantha's face broke into a triumphant smile.
Who hired this high school graduate? He's a disgrace to the company.
It was President Kevin, now in the hospital. Maybe he couldn't refuse because of old time's sake. Right. After all, he's too soft and easily deceived.
Mike made such remarks, and I attempted to respond, but was overpowered by Samantha's assertiveness.
Get him fired immediately. If you leave people like garbage forever, it will affect other people.
Right on, Samantha. I absolutely detest working with such people. I'll fire him immediately. We don't need a high school graduate who lacks a spirit of service to the company. I'll find some reason to dismiss him.
Exactly. Then hurry up and prepare the paperwork. Eliminating a salary thief is also part of my job as the president.
The two chuckled and glared pressuredly at the employees around them. I watched this with a sense of detachment. That's enough. Speaking up is pointless. I didn't want to hear Mike and Samantha's laughter anymore. Silently, I turned on my heel and walked away. While apologizing to a colleague trying to stop me, I gathered my belongings and left the office. After exiting the large building, I looked up at the floor where the office was located. Mike and Samantha were probably feeling very satisfied by now. They must be relieved, thinking they can finally build their empire without the nuisance of my presence. I felt disheartened. I let out one sigh and called Kevin in the hospital. I'm sorry, Kevin. I was forced out sooner than expected.
No, I should be the one apologizing. I'm sorry for putting you through this, but there's no one I trust more than you.
The role Kevin entrusted to me. It was an internal investigation. Normally, it would make sense to hire someone external for the audit, but due to someone inside engaging in espionage, such investigations were getting exposed. Even before Kevin took over as the president, there were signs of misconduct and shadows within the company, which the previous president was also concerned about.
I want to clean up this company. It's important to me, and it was inherited from my father. Plus, for the sake of those earnestly working hard, I want the wrongdoers to reflect on their actions.
You've always been straightforward, respecting the company and your father. I understand your feelings. The plan was to sneak amateurs in as investigators. The investigation could involve recording suspicious behavior, capturing evidence, something anyone could do. The last piece was deciding whom to trust with this plan. I tried my best to live up to your trust. I found evidence. I also recorded being yelled at earlier.
I'm sorry for putting you in this tough spot, but you truly helped me.
It's a request from my best friend. Piece of cake. Over the phone, Kevin sounded quite energetic. He seems to be doing well with his medical treatment. I felt relieved hearing his condition.
Take the evidence to my father. I can't leave the hospital yet. I'll speak to him in advance.
Understood. I'll take care of it. After hanging up, I searched for a taxi to head to his father's home, where I delivered the collected evidence the next day. The day after I handed over the evidence I had collected to Kevin's father as planned. I was relaxing at home after being fired when I received a call from Mike.
John, what on earth did you do?
Hello, I was expecting a call from you soon. I answered with a laugh, and Mike, his voice flipping, started shouting.
It was your doing, wasn't it? The police are at the company, causing chaos right now. They've seized my computer, and I can't do any work.
According to Mike, the police had suddenly stormed the company that morning and confiscated his computer. He was frantic about not being able to work, but it seemed there was more to his panic. You don't have to worry. Being in sales, you can just visit clients and earn that way? Or is there something you're afraid they might find? After my comment, Mike went silent. And no wonder. He had been involved in unspeakable misdeeds. I had heard rumors about him embezzling company funds and harshly treating newcomers into quitting. Despite his attempts to control information within the company, clients and others had been telling me all sorts of things. It seems they trusted me, who worked earnestly, over the duplicitous Mike. With their help, I was able to quickly identify the mastermind behind the fraud Kevin was talking about. In the last few years, money has been periodically missing from the company, so it might be a surprise audit, right? If you haven't done anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about.
How much do you know?
Well, how much, indeed, you'll find out soon enough. Then I heard Samantha's voice, as if she was nearby.
Do you think because you're incompetent and got fired, such harassment is acceptable? This is a serious issue that's shaking up the company. Pretending to be a detective just because you're a high school grad.
It's not without permission. Our president asked me to act.
I didn't instruct anything. Wait, my husband did.
She finally realized that I wasn't just causing trouble for fun, but was conducting a formal investigation. I could hear Samantha trembling, her teeth clattering audibly. Samantha hastily tried to call Kevin from her smartphone, but the call ended abruptly without a ring. It's pointless. By now, he's probably preparing for a divorce and has blocked your calls.
Why am I being dragged into this?
Perhaps because you were the spy. In the past, when Kevin or the former president hired investigators, someone reported this to the mastermind in advance. The internal investigations have so far failed because of that spy. However, there were only a limited number of people who could do that spying. This spy could only be from Kevin's family, given the access required. Several attempts at internal investigations seem to have been undermined by someone leaking information beforehand, warning them to be cautious. It's odd, isn't it? Only insiders would know such information.
And what does this have to do with me? If you're trying to intimidate me, I'll sue you.
Even as she said this, her voice was trembling with disturbance. I replied calmly. I did some digging and found that you and Mike have been close since your student days, frequently going out for drinks even recently.
How dare you investigate that? But what of it? That's irrelevant.
Kevin has been in the hospital, and you haven't been home. Where have you been staying? Faced with this question, Samantha fell silent. I already knew about her affair with Mike, having commissioned a detective to investigate them. I had asked a detective acquaintance to take evidence photos on the night she mentioned going out with Mike. Having changed jobs frequently, I had many acquaintances. This is a weapon that I, a high school graduate, have acquired in order to survive. Now, this weapon was poised to strike at those who had lorded over others unjustly. Don't insult the company and the values my friend has cherished. All the evidence has been passed to the former president, along with recordings of you exerting undue pressure on me and other employees.
Wait, the embezzlement was all Mike's doing, and he also forced me to have an affair. I'm not at fault.
Trying to escape the blame, are you? This whole mess started because of you.
I had to pull the phone away from my ear due to their loud voices.
How much money do you think I've given you? You spend it all on unsuitable clothes and bags. You're the bigger villain here.
It's because of your petty behavior that you've never been promoted beyond the department head. I'm the president's wife. I intend to stay happy, so just go to hell alone.
They had forgotten I was on the call and started bickering among themselves. Continuing the conversation seemed pointless. After hanging up, I began getting ready to leave. I went to the hospital to see Kevin. The investigation into Mike's computer revealed embezzlement. As a crime was committed for many years, the damage was reportedly over $50,000. He had squandered all of it on gambling, alcohol, and expenses for his affair with Samantha. Other executives connected to Mike were also implicated and faced consequences. This scandal was deeper and more extensive than anticipated, exposing long-hidden shadows within the company, much to the satisfaction of Kevin and the former president.
My father has been troubled for so long. I feel like I've finally been able to do something good for him.
You have always honored your parents ever since you were a student. You were already admirable when you respected your parents and showed them how to work hard. Kevin, who had been ill until then, was getting better, as if the spell was broken. Is it because he was able to clean up company darkness? Was it easier being in the hospital than seeing Samantha?
Yeah, our relationship turned cold soon after we got married.
Kevin and Samantha had been married for about 3 years. But contrary to the initial phase of their relationship, her personality drastically changed post-marriage. Later it was revealed that she and Mike had been connected from the start, possibly planted as a spy to covertly aid Mike's embezzlement. Mike and Samantha must be so frustrated that I, a high school graduate, brought it all to light. It's a punishment for suffering, my friend. So, what will happen to Mike and Samantha now? Mike's termination was already decided. He would be facing a lawsuit demanding $80,000 in damages. That's a fair amount for an affair and embezzlement. I also plan to sue for the mental distress caused by his undue pressure, aiming to dislodge him from his privileged position. I'm going to push Mike off the elitist road he's been on. As for Samantha, she was undergoing divorce proceedings. She had been fired by the former president's authority. Kevin was expected to return to his position soon.
John, you've put so much on the line for this. I'll do my best too. I feel lighter than ever, both physically and mentally. I'm eager to get back to work right away.
He must have been under a lot of stress. I took my hat off to him for being able to work so hard in such a situation.
You're coming back to the company, right, John?
Me? Really? I was fired, you know.
Well, I'm the president now. I can twist the facts if needed.
You're abusing your power, man. But yeah, I'd love to come back. I knew life was about to get busy again. That day, we talked until the very end of visiting hours at the hospital, just like in our student days. A few days later, coinciding with Kevin's return, I also went back to the company. Fortunately, the sales team welcomed me back, which was a relief. With some executives gone, many were promoted to fill the gaps, and I was appointed as the head of the sales department. Are you sure I'm the right person for this?
It's not just my decision. It's also the recommendation of the entire sales team. So, we all want you to do it.
And so, I continue to work hard under my esteemed friend. Recently, I saw Mike at an old convenience store on the outskirts of town. He, who always boasted about being an elite, was now being scolded by much younger part-time workers. No matter how educated he was, if he couldn't handle the cash register, he would get reprimanded. I watched from a distance as Mike caused a long line at the checkout, then left the store without speaking to him. As for Samantha, I heard rumors she was working in the nightlife, but I never saw her. According to the detective I know, her nature didn't suit even that job, and she was let go within days. Still unwilling to lower her standard of living, she apparently maxed out her credit cards and borrowed a large sum from a disreputable lender, but he hadn't seen her around since that day. I decided it was better not to know more.
Great job today. If you're not working late, let's go out for a drink.
I can't believe the president himself is here to invite me. What an honor.
Work's over, so cut that out, will you?
Right. No overtime today, so let's go drink. Kevin and I have been on different paths, and we have had our own difficulties. Even so, life is interesting because we can laugh at each other like this now. Thinking this, I found myself enjoying time with my best friend more than ever before.
Poor folks will always stay poor, right? Would you even deposit a penny in my bank, huh?
At the high school reunion, I ran into the fated enemy, a daughter of a bank president, Sarah Johnson. She still looked down on me, spouting whatever she wanted. I was utterly astounded by her attitude. Still trying to mock me, I got so angry that I pulled out my phone and said, "President Johnson, I'm canceling a deposit of $100 million. And more shocking truths awaited her. I am Emily Thompson, 30 years old. While working as a lowly office worker, I'm also living alone. Even though I'm an office worker, my company pays me so poorly that paying rent is a stretch. Despite the struggle, I prefer not to rely on my parents, dedicating my days off to side jobs and being extremely frugal when times are tough. My lifestyle might seem a bit constrained to others, but I have a loving partner and am satisfied with my life." Then one day, an invitation to the high school reunion arrived at my home. Seeing the invitation, I made a sour face. Because high school wasn't a place of fond memories for me. When I was in high school, I was a bit on the chubby side compared to others. I thought my face was plain, and more than anything, I hated my acne-prone sensitive skin. During high school, my skin condition was at its worst, and looking in the mirror every day brought me down. The one who took notice of me was Sarah Johnson, the most prominent girl in school. Sarah always called me dirty and even threw water over my head in the bathroom, claiming she was washing my face for me. I was hesitant to go to a reunion filled with such memories. But now I've lost a lot of weight compared to my high school days, and my skin has become smooth and clear, without a single blemish. Honestly, I think people who knew me back then wouldn't recognize me now. That's why I thought maybe it wouldn't hurt to go. But this thoughtless action would make me feel miserable like in the old days. On the day of the reunion, I dressed up in a new dress and went to the venue. While parking my car, feeling excited, I saw Rachel, an old good friend from school. I hadn't been in touch with her since graduating, so I felt nostalgic and immediately rushed to her after parking. "Long time no see, Rachel. Remember me? I'm Emily."
"What? Emily? Is that really you? You've become so beautiful."
Hearing that from Rachel made me very happy. I could confidently say I had transformed significantly from my past self. Honestly, until Rachel said that, I wasn't sure if I had really changed. I was afraid of meeting high school friends who might say, "What, really? You haven't changed at all." But that fear vanished until she showed up.
Hey, you're in the way.
As we were walking by, none other than Sarah, who used to bully and torment me in the past, popped her head out of the car and called out to us. I recognized her immediately with her upturned eyes and loose, curly, chestnut hair, just like before. "Oh, sorry, Sarah." I found myself apologizing instinctively, out of old habit. She looked surprised at first, but then she exclaimed, "Huh?
Could that voice be Emily?"
Yes, it's me. I guess I've changed too much to be recognized," I said to Sarah with a sheepish smile. Then, Sarah began to smile with the same malicious delight as before.
"Really? You've changed so much. Where did you dump that sloppy figure and nasty skin? Did you get plastic surgery or something?"
Her words made me choke, but I gathered my courage to respond. "No way, I don't have money for plastic surgery. I've worked hard to lose weight and even went to a dermatologist to improve my skin condition." I said this with a bit of pride, remembering the blood, sweat, and tears I put into my efforts. Sarah pursed her lips in displeasure for a moment, but soon returned to her usual smile.
"Yay, right. Like you'd have money when your parents are so broke they're in debt."
Sarah's words made me bristle. Indeed, my parents had failed in business and accumulated debt at one point. And the lender was the bank where Sarah's father was the president. Her attitude worsened after that, a fact I couldn't forget even if I wanted to. However, my parents had paid off all their debts decades ago, so bringing that up now, I thought Sarah was still as mean-spirited as ever.
"Well, no matter how much your appearance has changed, your introverted life remains the same, huh? Still mumbling and hunching over, I see. I thought you might have gained some confidence, but you're just like a cardboard cutout. What are you so proud of?"
Sarah sneered and burst into laughter. Seeing her like that, I realized once again how much I disliked her. But I took her spiteful remarks as a sign that she might be feeling a bit bummed out. Sarah mocked me and then quickly rolled up her car window and drove off. Even though we were still standing there, she drove by without a care. What a nasty person. Maybe I should just go home. As I muttered this, watching Sarah's car, Rachel, who was glaring at Sarah, said, "Why? You've become beautiful. Don't sweat someone like her." Hearing Rachel's words, I reconsidered and headed to the venue. But I would later regret not leaving at that moment. As soon as I entered, I felt the glances of my classmates. Surely everyone thought I was Emily Thompson, walking along so familiarly with Rachel, but they must have been uncertain. When I told my name to the receptionist, who was the popular guy back then, exclaimed in surprise. That really put me in the spotlight all at once. Everyone looked at me with wide eyes and praised me. Just when I was starting to enjoy the attention, Sarah reappeared in front of me.
"What's the commotion?"
Like before, Sarah walked through the center of the venue with her entourage, exuding a certain intimidation in her high-brand attire. Realizing I was the center of attention, Sarah snorted disdainfully and said, "Oh, it's about her," feigning disinterest. She probably thought there was someone more noticeable than her around, maybe found it annoying. She came close to me with a creepy smile.
"Look at her dress. It looks expensive at first glance, but it's actually cheap, bought from an overseas online store. She might have changed her looks, but it shows she hasn't changed inside. Still pretending, huh?"
As Sarah spoke, her followers agreed. She seemed pleased with herself as she chuckled. Then, making belittling comments, she whirled in front of me, flaunting her outfit.
"Look, my clothes are all high-end brands. Isn't the fluttering skirt hem so elegant? If you care about appearance, you should wear quality stuff. Otherwise, just like your clothes, you look cheap.
Then, Sarah grabbed my accessory and scoffed.
Oh, this is just gold-plated, huh? Suits your cheap outfit perfectly, doesn't it?
Feeling humiliated, I said, "Stop it," and brushed her hand away. Sarah seemed displeased and stared at me coldly.
What? You're standing up to me? Think a fatty and ugly Pua girl can do that.
Stop it. I'm not overweight anymore, and I'm not Poo either.
So what? Just because you look a bit different, you think you're on top of the world. Sorry to burst your bubble, but I've maintained my figure since high school and put more effort into beauty and fashion than you ever did. So, you think you can beat me just by faking it in fancy clothes now?
Sarah's words doused my good mood, and I felt like my old insecure self was awakening. It was the worst feeling. As I clenched my back teeth in frustration, Sarah looked back at me with a triumphant expression and stepped closer. Then a nasty ripping sound echoed.
Oops, sorry, I just tried to touch this decoration and it tore off. But what can you expect, right? It's cheap clothing after all.
How could you do that?
Don't get mad, please. It's your fault for wearing cheap clothes. Maybe it was already fraying.
Incredibly, Sarah had pulled and ripped off a ribbon decoration from my dress. The room buzzed, and everyone started murmuring, focusing on Sarah and me. Enjoying the attention, Sarah even reached for my necklace. Hey, don't touch that.
I just wanted a closer look. I complimented your taste earlier, didn't I? Oh no, sorry, it tore because you resisted.
A nasty snapping sound hit my ears. At the same time, a sharp pain shot through my neck where the necklace was yanked off. I couldn't understand why this was happening to me, and tears started flowing. Seeing this, Sarah began to show her true colors even more. Instinctively feeling a bad premonition, I wanted to flee. But her entourage blocked my way. Tripped, I fell to the floor of the venue, hands first. Sitting nearby with a grin, Sarah looked down at me.
Hey, your face is dirty, just like in high school. Let me wash it for you.
Yuck. It was like a nightmare all over again. Sarah picked up a wine glass nearby and poured it over my head. That brought back memories of that time, and I couldn't help but shiver. But then, something different happened. Rachel, who had been quietly watching us and looked scared, finally spoke up. Stop it. I guess it took a lot of courage for her, as she had also been bullied by Sarah in high school. With Rachel's help, I managed to stand up and glance sideways at Sarah.
Introverts banding together, how amusing. But sadly, do you think plain girls like you can beat a winner like me?
We're not the same as before. Grow up already.
I am grown up. Unlike you, I'm going to be the next bank president, and I'm already engaged to the heir of a major corporation. Jealous, aren't you?
Sarah said dreamily, tilting her head and starting to talk about her fiancé.
He's the future president of a super famous advertising agency and has been modeling since elementary school. He adores me and acts all sweet when we're alone. Can life get any more perfect? I guess it's like a fairy tale for poor folks like you, huh?
Sarah was in high spirits, but her words made us stand out for all the wrong reasons, and I wanted to flee the scene. I regretted coming. After reuniting with old friends and being praised for my transformation, was I still the same inside, just as Sarah said? Clutching the tattered hem of my dress, I was overwhelmed with frustration. The tears wouldn't stop, even though I desperately wanted to hold them back. I couldn't help but wonder, why does it always have to be me? I had lost touch with Rachel because being with her often led to being targeted by Sarah, just like today, and it felt awkward. Today was supposed to be the day we could reminisce about the good old times together. Yet, Sarah ruined everything again. It was the worst. I can't take it anymore, let's go home. Feeling that way, I wiped away tears with the back of my hand and headed out of the venue with Rachel. But Sarah wasn't about to let go of her newfound amusement. The real hell started there.
Wait a minute, where do you think you're going?
Called back by Sarah, we turned around with our heads down. Then Sarah started saying,
All you do is cry when I call you Pua. Don't you ever want to change your situation? It's really pathetic.
Although I felt the disapproving glances from the crowd, no one voiced their objection. Nobody wanted to become her next target. I realized I probably wouldn't have spoken up either if Sarah had targeted another classmate. She had been an absolute presence since high school.
Does everyone know? That's Emily over there. Her parents once borrowed money from my dad's bank. They paid it back, but you know, Emily herself borrowed money from our bank until recently.
It doesn't matter. Sarah, you don't work there. It's none of your business. Don't announce it so loudly.
If you're ashamed of borrowing money, why do it at all, especially when your parents had debts too? Doesn't that show a lack of learning?
I had no choice. I needed it. My weak retort made Sarah laugh scornfully. That's why low-level people are just sad. Fed up with her unchanging attitude, I pulled Rachel's arm, eager to end the conversation and leave. But even as we walked away, Sarah kept talking.
Pua people will always be Pua, right? Would you even deposit a penny in my bank, huh?
Hearing this, I was furious and involuntarily stopped in my tracks. Why should my efforts be ridiculed to this extent? Anger began to simmer within me. If she was going to go that far, I couldn't stay silent any longer. Until now, I had hesitated to talk back or retaliate, always mindful of myself and others. But was it right to just walk away? To spend a lifetime being seen as a loser by her? I couldn't stand that thought. I had worked hard and changed my appearance, which had been a huge complex for me. That was an undeniable fact. Now was the time to make a decisive break with Sarah, to stand up for myself. With that in mind, I turned back to face Sarah. Then I took out my phone and prepared to retaliate. President Johnson, canceling a deposit of $100 million. I put the phone to my ear and said it loud and clear, making sure she heard every word. Sarah clearly heard my words, responding with a dumbfounded huh. I continued, actually. I had promised to deposit $100 million in your father's bank. That statement silenced everyone in the venue. Rachel, standing next to me, was gaping in shock. Indeed, I had been approached just the other day about depositing $100 million into the bank where Sarah's father is the president. I knew exactly why they came to me. Your father's bank was in trouble, and they asked if I could help. I wasn't interested at first, but they pleaded so desperately that I finally said I could deposit $100 million. As I casually mentioned this, Sarah murmured in astonishment, "No way." It seemed her father hadn't told his family about the bank's dire situation. Well, telling Sarah about it wouldn't change anything anyway, so it's not surprising he kept quiet about it. But I've decided to cancel that $100 million deposit. Sadly, that means your father's bank is done for. And since you'll be losing your allowance, you'll need to start working for yourself. As I said this with a smile, Sarah's face turned red and she lowered her voice. What are you talking about?
Stop lying. There's no way a Pua person like you has $100 million. It's just not realistic.
It's not a lie. You saw me calling your father, right? Look, the line is still connected.
Humph, you're probably just pretending. If it's true, then let me see the phone.
Sarah snatched the phone from me and pushed me aside. But it didn't matter to me, because I was genuinely on the phone with her father. Sarah's expression tensed up as she heard her father's voice on the phone.
What? No way.
Is that you, Sarah? Why are you with Emily? Did you do something to her?
What are you talking about, Dad? As if she's some important client.
Of course, she is an important client, you fool. What have you done? I'm coming over right now. You said it's the reunion today, right? I know the venue from the notification card left on the desk. Wait for me there.
Sarah, being scolded over the phone, seemed to panic. I watched her flustered reaction and couldn't help but smirk in a way that was almost too sinister. Sarah, with a frightened look, asked, "What is going on?" "Well, I'm doing illustration as a side gig, and recently a person who worked for a major gaming company approached me to collaborate on a game. I was curious why they chose me, but I kinda just took on that job."
And what about it?
Then it became a mobile app game and exploded in popularity, and the payouts to me became pretty substantial. I've taken on other jobs, too, and since I don't usually spend much, all that money just went straight into my savings. Sarah's mouth flapped open and closed like a fish. "By the way, I did take a loan from your father's bank for that project, but it seems you mistook it for debt."
Loan, isn't that the same as debt?
A loan means borrowing with a solid business plan and repayment schedule. Yes, it's debt, but you get it only after passing a credit check, promising to repay it fully. Aren't you the bank president's daughter? Shouldn't you know this? As I explained, Sarah's face turned red and she looked down, apparently not knowing any of this. She must have overheard something about my loan from her father and misunderstood it on her own. I sighed, exasperated by Sarah's ignorance. Yet, she still seemed unwilling to stop looking down on me.
Humph, I don't know about your illustrations, but I bet they're the kind of creepy, sensual ones that would come from a nerd like you. That's why they got popular. How disgusting.
Sarah said this, dramatically rubbing her arms. Her words were so outlandish, clearly a desperate insult, that I didn't even bother to retort. Taking my silence as affirmation, Sarah smirked and said, just as I thought.
Just because you're making money doesn't make those kinds of illustrations any less embarrassing. I wouldn't mind taking a look, though. Send them to my phone. In fact, why not share them with everyone, huh?
Sarah tried to rattle me again, but I wasn't fazed. I didn't know what kind of illustrations she was imagining, but I wasn't ashamed of my work. If she wanted to see them, I was ready to show her. Suddenly, I noticed her phone case and exclaimed, "Oh!" Sarah, curious, raised an eyebrow and prompted me to explain. "That phone case you're holding, I designed it in a limited edition collaboration with a high-end brand."
What?
I've learned since starting side work that illustration encompasses a variety of jobs. I happened to connect with someone on social media who works as a designer for that high-end brand, and they recommended me for the collaboration. Sarah looked stunned, examining her phone case closely.
Lies. I was told when I bought it that it was made by a talented designer, specially for me. You're saying you're that talented designer? Don't make me laugh.
It's true. Believe it or not, it's up to you. As I shrugged resignedly, Sarah glared at me with frustration. Just then, Sarah's father, whom I had just called, arrived. He came over, sweating and flustered.
Emily, I had to come after our conversation just a little while ago. I couldn't stay away. Please forgive my sudden visit. But why? Why would you refuse the $100 million deposit? Could you please explain the reason to me?
Dad, you really came.
Sarah, I don't need you right now. Go over there. I have important matters to discuss. This concerns the future of the Johnsons.
Sarah's father said dismissively, treating her harshly. She glared at me, grumbling about the unfair treatment.
What's so great about her? Dad's the bank president, right? He's supposed to lend money, not borrow. And now he's groveling because she refused a bank account, so what?
You don't understand. Our bank is failing because of your extravagant spending. Your actions led to this situation.
What do you mean?
Sarah rushed to her father, who was apologizing profusely as if he were about to collapse, wearing a puzzled expression on her face. He sighed in dismay at his daughter's ignorance. And then he pushed her aside and immediately dropped to his knees, starting to pour out heartfelt apologies. Sarah stood there, dumbfounded by her father's actions. He apologized for Sarah's past rudeness, and he desperately begged for the $100 million deposit reconsideration. I remained firm in my decision, shaking my head. Sarah snapped back to reality and stood between her father and me.
Stop it, Dad. It's embarrassing. You're the bank president. Act like it. I can't believe my father is acting this way. And Emily, don't get all high and mighty. You're just a nobody who happened to come into some money.
Sarah said defiantly, puffing out her chest. Then her father, with a fierce look, confronted her.
What are you talking about? Our bank earned its status through generations of community trust. You know nothing, acting all high and mighty. It's because of your meddling that I'm forced to make this deeply sincere apology.
Hearing her father's loud scolding, Sarah choked up. The president's anger was far from over.
First of all, I thought that if you had gotten along with that heir, our bank could have recovered. But you couldn't make a good impression with your haughty attitude, could you? You just rave about how handsome he is, then leave me to clean up your mess. What are you thinking?
We gasped at his words. Just before, Sarah had claimed to be engaged to the next president. Could it be a lie? I wasn't the only one shocked. The onlookers, who had been watching from a distance, suddenly turned their gaze toward Sarah all at once. Sarah caught everyone's stares and started to sweat nervously.
Stop it. Don't embarrass me. It's his fault for not seeing my worth.
It's because you lack charm. Be useful for once. You're nothing but a freeloader. At least contribute something.
My life is mine. You have no right to say that, Dad.
Say that when you can earn a living on your own.
They continued to shout insults at each other. The rest of us didn't know how to react to this spectacle. They really were like two peas in a pod. As we wondered when their argument would end, the president erupted.
Enough. Talking to you is pointless. If this deal falls through, your allowance, everything, will be gone. I'm cutting ties with you as family.
Wait, that's going too far. Are you serious?
I don't joke. Since the engagement with the heir fell through, you've been worthless to me. I've been planning to disown you ever since.
Shocked by her father's words, Sarah was frozen in place. Leaving her behind, her father, after catching his breath, gave up on the deal and left. Sarah, left alone, stood petrified in the eerily silent venue. I turned to Rachel, who was beside me in disbelief, and said, "Let's go home. I've got no business here anymore, and I can't be bothered with this charade any longer." Rachel also started walking slowly, with me leading the way. At that moment, Sarah, who had been immobile, she suddenly sprang into action and lunged at me as I turned my back to her. Caught off guard, I was nearly overpowered when someone restrained her. It was my boyfriend, Kyle McLachlan. Initially, Sarah struggled against Kyle's hold, but when she saw his face, she gasped. Then her cheeks flushed as she exclaimed,
Kyle, What are you doing here? Did you come to see me? Have you reconsidered our marriage?
I blurted out in astonishment, "What?" Then Sarah turned to me, smiling triumphantly.
He's the fiancé I was talking about. Someone out of your league, like a prince out of a fairy tale.
Confused by her claim, I was about to ask what was going on when Kyle shook his head in exasperation.
Emily, don't believe her. There was talk of an engagement, but I couldn't stand her on a gut level, so I called it off. We have nothing to do with each other now, but she's been going around spreading rumors that she's my girlfriend.
Kyle, wait, you mean that persistent girl you were talking about?
Right, Sarah's the one I was talking about. But I'm marrying Emily soon, and her nuisance behavior needs to stop, so I'm consulting with a lawyer. I never expected to run into Emily here, though.
Sarah's jaw dropped wide open as she watched me chatting with Kyle. Then, after comparing me and Kyle several times, she asked in confusion,
What do you mean? You dumped me for her. Didn't you just say that?
Kyle bluntly replied, "Yes, I did." At that, Sarah started yelling hysterically.
What? Impossible. Why would Kyle be with such a plain girl? How did you even meet? Are you blackmailing him, Emily? There's no way Kyle would marry Emily. Absolutely impossible.
That's rude. I haven't blackmailed anyone. We just met at a painting class and hit it off. I had no idea there was talk of an engagement with Sarah.
Of course, he's the future president of a famous ad agency and a model. Only someone like me is worthy of him, not the trash like you. You're tricking Kyle.
Sarah charged at me, pushed him aside, and came closer to me. I stood firm, meeting her with a resolute glare.
You're being deceived by her, Kyle. She back in high school had a face full of acne, was fat, and was just plain ugly, like some kind of ogre. It's not too late to change your mind. Marrying me would make you much happier.
Sarah tried to charm Kyle, shoving me aside. Though annoyed and jealous, I trusted Kyle not to be fooled by her, waiting for his response.
I came here for Emily. Honestly, I don't want anything to do with someone who spreads lies about being in a relationship with me.
Stunned by his firm rejection, Sarah froze, seemingly unable to believe she was being turned down.
Why? I'm so beautiful, definitely better suited to be by Kyle's side. You should think harder. Choosing her now, you'll surely regret it. Even compatibility horoscopes show that she and Kyle are a mismatch.
That's exactly why I can't stand you.
Sarah, clinging to Kyle, was refused adamantly, and she ended up sitting weakly on the ground. In the venue, all eyes were on Sarah with judgment. Eventually realizing the attention, she blushed and hurried out of the venue. Later, Sarah was kicked out of her home. On top of that, she's living a lavish lifestyle, despite being broke and drowning in debt. Unable to forget Kyle, she even caused trouble at his workplace, ending up arrested and spending time behind bars. Hearing this, I felt like I finally got revenge for high school. Moreover, since that day, my luck turned, and I achieved even greater success as an illustrator. Things really kicked off when I got approached for deals even from overseas animated movies. This made me even more of a celebrity. Thanks to this, I was able to leave my job as an office worker and make a living happily as an illustrator, married to the man I love. Rachel and I also rekindled our friendship from high school. It's been a journey with its ups and downs, but ultimately, I'm living a wonderful life now, and I intend to cherish it.
What are you thinking? How can a low-level employee like you afford to use paid leave to come to such a fancy hotel? Are you kidding me? Permission for paid leave? That was just to make you think you had a break. I never thought you'd actually take time off to come to a place like this.
This incident occurred on the day I took my mom to a luxury hotel as a Mother's Day gift. My arrogant boss had deliberately waited for me at the hotel, yelling and looking down on me mockingly. But he was unaware of something crucial. My mom is not just an ordinary lady. He doesn't know how this would dramatically affect his life in the future. I'm Michael Anderson. My parents got divorced when I was young, and I was raised by my mom in a single-parent household. From a young age, I realized how busy my mom was, working tirelessly for our livelihood. At daycare, I was always the last kid to be picked up.
Hey, teacher, where's my mom? Isn't she here yet?
Just a bit longer. Want to play with the blocks? What do you say?
But all my friends have already gone home.
Then let's build a big car with the blocks together.
The daycare teachers probably felt sorry for me, always waiting late into the night for my mom. They always suggested fun activities to keep me entertained. Even after I started elementary school, not much changed. Unlike the daycare, which kept kids until 7 p.m., the after-school program was fee-based and could only be extended until 6 p.m. If my mom was late, I would walk home alone in the dark. Sometimes, my friends' parents would get worried and drop me off at home. But that only made me feel more miserable, ashamed of them seeing our dark, empty house, and I'd often rush home alone. But I never expressed my loneliness or frustration to my mom. Even as a kid, I understood how hard she was working. I vaguely knew we were in debt, so I kept my feelings to myself, swallowing my loneliness. As I grew older, I turned to sports to distract myself from loneliness. Focusing on physical activity helped me forget all my troubles. That's how I coped with the solitude of my childhood. Thanks to my mom's hard work, our living situation gradually improved. In high school, while I participated in sports, I also worked part-time jobs on my days off. But thanks to my mom's efforts, it wasn't to support our living expenses, but rather just for pocket money. Like my friends, around that time, I started thinking about my future education. Mom, I've been thinking about what I want to do after high school. Just before a parent-teacher conference, I brought up the topic with her. She surprised me by saying, "A private university might be tough, but if you want to go to a state university and study what you like, that's fine. That's if you want to pursue higher education, of course." Really?
Of course, you've been through a lot. I want to let you study as much as you want.
Thanks, Mom. I'm going to college. I'll work hard and get into a state university, so don't worry.
I'm sorry, Michael. Thank you.
No, thank you. I chose a state university within commuting distance and studied hard, balancing it with my part-time job. During the parent-teacher conference, my homeroom teacher assured me, "If you keep up your current grades, you can definitely aim for it." With this endorsement, I confidently faced the entrance exams. My efforts paid off, and I was accepted into a state university. As a college student, I didn't slack off in my studies, balancing them with increased work hours. I was determined to make the most of the opportunity my mom had given me. I crammed my 4 years of college with as many courses as possible, earning an abundance of credits. At the same time, I was actively involved in extracurricular activities, which allowed me to enjoy a fulfilling 4 years in college. After graduating, I got a job in the textile industry. Working in textiles required not only a delicate sensibility, but also the physical strength to handle large amounts of fabric. Thanks to my sports experience during my student years, I was fairly confident in my physical abilities. As for developing a delicate sensibility, that was something I hoped to improve over time. Parker, the head of the sales department, once told me, "Sensibility is honed in the field, so don't worry about it." This advice made me think that, while career advancement was good, I wanted to stay in the field as long as possible. Once you get promoted, you tend to do more paperwork and attend more meetings than actual field work. When I shared this thought with my peers, one of them said, "You sure are an odd one." I guess most people want to advance their careers quickly and work in a comfortable office environment. It seemed I was a rare type. I worked diligently under Parker's guidance, sometimes even meeting the demanding requirements of our clients. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say I dedicated most of my Wendy's to my job. I was always thinking about the company, even in my sleep. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. Cancer.
Yeah, I debated whether to tell everyone, but I thought it's better to be honest rather than to create unnecessary speculation.
This is shocking.
But it's in the early stages, so it's not an immediate concern.
Parker called everyone together before work to share his cancer diagnosis. Although it was caught early and treatment for a return seemed feasible, he decided to retire early due to his age, which was over 55.
I'm sorry for the sudden news. I'll ensure a smooth transition, so as not to cause any more trouble.
But are you sure you're okay? Can you be cured?
I can say for sure. There are no absolutes in medicine. But since it's early, the chances of recovery are high. Don't worry, I won't go down that easily. Make sure you visit me from time to time.
Parker. Overwhelmed, I couldn't help but cry, and Parker gently patted my back in comfort. Due to his illness, he did a brief handover and left the office a few days later. His replacement was Smith.
All right, everyone. I'm your new boss from today. I expect everyone to work hard. No more lax work like before. Be prepared.
His greeting conveyed a sense of danger, and everyone frowned, but Smith seemed oblivious. He was not expected to be promoted to this position. To be frank, he wasn't really known for his competence, but due to Parker's sudden retirement and the seniority system, he ended up getting the position. He disliked being told what to do and barely nodded in agreement to Parker's instructions. He was also known for losing his temper, yelling at juniors, and had a reputation for not being a pleasant person. Until now, Parker had always kept Smith in check, so there had never been any major problems. But after Parker left, Smith got promoted. There seemed to be no one left to restrain him. Furthermore, Smith was overly tyrannical to the point of being abusive to the employees. When I'd say have a good evening and try to leave on time after finishing my day's work, Smith would ask in genuine surprise, "Hey Anderson, why are you leaving now?" Well, it's time, and I've finished my work for today.
What are you talking about? Just because you finished today's work doesn't mean you can just leave. There's always more to do.
But
all of you, too. Don't just focus on today's work. Look ahead and keep moving forward. That way, we can secure more contracts, which is good for the company. Work as much overtime as possible. Those who leave on time are incompetent. Work harder.
Smith proudly declared this in front of everyone, leaving us dumbfounded. When a junior colleague tried to take paid leave, Smith confronted him aggressively. "Hey, you applied for leave. What were you thinking?" "Well, yes, I did."
What kind of thinking is that? Everyone else is working hard, and you think you can just take leave? Nonsense. If you have time to spare, work.
Well, I have a family event that day. I've taken leave before without any issues.
I don't care. I'm the boss now. Forget how things were done before. No more taking leave.
His overly tyrannical behavior confused everyone in the department. At one point, he imposed a senseless punishment. Who comes in at the last minute like that? As a penalty, come in an hour early from tomorrow and clean the office. Another time, he announced, "We've hit this month's target, but it's not enough. Tomorrow is Saturday, but we'll have a meeting, so everyone must attend as usual." We all voiced our concerns, but Smith didn't care. It seemed he had been frustrated about not getting a position until now. After he finally got promoted to be a manager, he lashed out his pent-up frustrations on his subordinates.
"Hey Anderson, how are you doing?"
"Good evening, sir. Just the usual, I guess."
"That's good. But you know, being in your 30s and still just a junior employee, aren't you a bit too incompetent?"
"What?"
"That's the lowest of the low. If you're still there at your age, it says a lot about your future, doesn't it? It's only a matter of time before the newbies overtake you."
"Well."
"Anyway, just make sure you don't get overtaken by the newcomers. And of course, I expect you to work overtime today as well."
With a pat on my shoulder, Smith walked away, leaving me with nothing to do but sigh. A few months after Smith's arrival, one day happened to be close to Mother's Day.
So I'm thinking of splurging on a Mother's Day gift.
That's nice. It's your first Mother's Day since you started working, isn't it?
Yes, so I'm thinking of giving a short trip or something as a gift, even if it's somewhere nearby.
Wow, that's wonderful. Your mom will be so happy.
But then I'd have to do the same for Father's Day, right? I'm thinking about where to go. They both love spa resorts, so maybe that would be nice.
Overhearing this conversation between a new female employee and a third-year female employee, I glanced at the calendar. Right, Mother's Day was coming up. Every year I take my mom out to dinner, but maybe this time I should splurge on a night at a luxury hotel. With that in mind, I hurriedly took action. I searched on my phone during lunch and made an early reservation. Immediately after returning to the office, I applied for paid leave using the internal company form. Although I wanted my mom to relax, it was clear she wouldn't go alone if I just told her to. Well, staying overnight with a parent at this age might feel a bit embarrassing, but it should be fine once in a while. However, applying for paid leaves, which used to be routine under Parker, had become impossible since Smith took over. I wondered what he would say this time, but staying in this situation would only increase dissatisfaction among my colleagues. Therefore, I decided to boldly apply for leave on a weekday. The days leading up to the trip were relatively calm. I was sure I would be reprimanded for requesting time off. I even prepared myself to be scolded in front of everyone. But surprisingly, nothing was said. Even more astonishing, my application was approved the next day.
Anderson, you seem to be doing well lately. Did anything good happen?
I guess it's just the usual.
Good. Keep it up, just as usual.
His overly cheerful mood was almost scary. But if things continued this peacefully, I couldn't ask for more. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was calm before the storm. Then came the day of the trip. I enjoyed sightseeing around the hotel area with my mom in the morning and headed to the hotel in time for check-in.
Wow, can we really stay at a place like this?
Yay, I'll check us in now. Just wait here.
Thank you.
While my mom excitedly explored the hotel's grandeur, I headed to the reception to check in. However, I stopped in my tracks when I saw someone who shouldn't have been there. Smith. My feet were frozen as I saw Smith hurrying over to me.
Hey, Anderson.
Why are you here, Smith?
What do you mean, why? How can a lowly employee like you use paid leave to come to such a luxury hotel? Are you kidding me?
After he started to berate me, he grabbed my collar as if he was furious. Confused, I managed to reply, but you approved my leave request. Indeed, my leave for that day had been approved by Smith. Why, then, was I being yelled at like that, at the hotel of all places?
That was just to lead you on. I never thought you'd actually take time off to come to a place like this.
Lead me on. I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean.
What? Are you messing with me? Ha! I'd love to see the face of the parent who raised such an incompetent person who doesn't even understand their own position.
What?
Their face, the face. I want to see the face of the parent who raised such an incompetent person like you.
Smith, seemingly pleased with himself, continued, "You're just a permanent junior employee, never doing any unpaid overtime and showing no desire for promotion. What's wrong with you? Don't you want to get ahead? If you do, you should be working overtime every day. Show some determination and grit. Otherwise, the higher-ups won't recognize you." Well, someone as incompetent as you probably won't understand what I'm saying, right? Sorry for talking about complex stuff, he ranted. Just as I was feeling the sting of my surroundings and thinking about how to handle this situation, Michael, my mother, having heard the commotion, walked over. Then, it suddenly clicked for me. I turned back to Smith. Smith.
What?
My parent is right here. Saying this, I stepped aside to reveal my mother, causing Smith to freeze in place.
Why? How?
Well, hello there. I believe this is the first time we've met within the company, isn't it?
Why? Why is the chairwoman here? You mean parent. What does this mean?
Oh, you knew about me. I thought I was hardly known within the company, since I rarely make an appearance.
Well, of course. How could I not know the face of the chairwoman? It's impossible not to.
Well, that's flattering.
Yes, my mother is the chairwoman of our company. It seems Smith knew of my mother, but wasn't aware of our parent-child relationship. In front of my mother, he completely shrank back.
By the way, Smith, I've heard everything. My son seems to be under your care. However, what he's told me about you seems to be true.
Well,
Paid leave is an employee's rightful entitlement. You have no grounds to fault him for that. And what's this? Unpaid overtime. Overtime for promotion. Aren't you being abusive? Listen, work isn't just about mindlessly putting in hours. It's about efficiency, doing things effectively. Without proper balance, you can't perform well. I thought that would be common sense for someone in the workforce, but perhaps I was mistaken.
My mother confronted Smith with a smile, but her eyes were anything but amused. He was completely terrified by her presence. However, I had no intention of stopping her. In fact, part of me wanted her to be even harsher. My mother, who has always managed our company, can be incredibly intimidating when she's angry. Her mouth might be smiling, but her eyes were anything but that. They were so cold it felt like they could chill you to the bone.
Well, never mind. I'm here for personal reasons, not business. I don't have time to bother with you any longer.
But, Chairwoman.
Is there something else you need from us?
No, nothing at all.
Good. I'll inform you of your consequences later. Be prepared. Michael, let's go.
Yes. Seeing my mother so enraged after a long time, I broke out in a cold sweat. Carefully avoiding provoking her further, I responded and walked past the stunned Smith. Glancing at his expression as we passed, he looked utterly defeated. After enjoying the trip with my mom, we returned home feeling very satisfied. I found Smith's seat at the sales department gone when I went back to work 2 days later. It turned out my mother had contacted HR from our hotel. Smith's unreasonable treatment of his subordinates came to light. Originally, HR had considered him unsuitable for the managerial position, viewing him as a stopgap until a more suitable person was found. Of course, if he had produced results, he could have stayed, but his behavior made that impossible. Misinterpreting the position given to him as his own merit, his tyrannical behavior resulted in an immediate transfer. He was sent to the logistics department. It's a physically demanding and hot area, mostly staffed by young, strong men.
Smith, to logistics.
I can't imagine he'll keep up.
He's clearly aiming for a voluntary resignation.
Well, considering what he did, he got his just desserts.
Anyway, I'm relieved we can work efficiently again now that he's gone.
Yes, no more unnecessary overtime or weekend work. It's nice to be back to peace.
Despite various rumors, nobody genuinely expressed concern for Smith. Perhaps he was now sweating profusely in the logistics department, feeling small and insignificant. I didn't have an ounce of sympathy for him. The sales department decided to leave the managerial position vacant for a while, with a manager temporarily taking on the role. We apologize for the inconvenience caused by this temporary personnel decision, the HR department representative said, even coming to the sales department to apologize. Additionally, my mother, though retired from the front lines as the chairwoman, decided she needed to keep a closer eye on the company's operations. The current CEO, who had been my mother's competent right-hand man for many years, also sent an apology letter after hearing from her. In the sales department, we were just glad to have our peaceful work environment back, so much so that we were almost embarrassed by the apologies from various departments. Smith quit the company shortly after his transfer to logistics. Whether it was a move aimed at inducing his resignation, I don't know, but working under younger employees, along with the physical demands, were likely too much for him.
He was really put through the ringer there.
He was a man who hated being told what to do, after all.
He wasn't going to last, was he?
These rumors faded within a week. Later, I was called to the reception room by my mother.
Michael, sorry for calling you in so suddenly.
No, it's okay. But what's up? Is there something else?
No, it's not that. I just think it's time for you to accept a promotion.
A promotion?
Yes, I'm truly grateful that you joined our company. I know you've continued to work on site, following former manager Parker's advice. I understand you have your ambitions and are dedicated to your goals, working with pride in your current role. I get all that.
But why the sudden promotion talk?
It's not sudden. I've been thinking about it for a while. And it's not just me. The CEO and the HR department agree.
What? That was a shocking revelation for me.
Since you joined the company, we've never really talked about this, so let me say it now. I'd like you to work towards becoming the next CEO.
I've always thought about taking over the company one day, but I still have so much to learn and I still want to be out in the field.
I understand, but our company's work isn't just about field work. Sure, there are things you can only learn and experience on the field. But there are also things you can only understand and learn from leading and commanding from above.
I understood what my mother was saying. I thought so too. When I first joined, I was fully intent on eventually taking over as the CEO. However, after working for 10 years in the textile industry, I started to doubt if I was up to such a big role. I asked my mother for some time to think and called former manager Parker during the weekend. He had successfully undergone surgery and was then living a peaceful retirement. I haven't been in touch for a while.
It's been a long time, indeed.
I consulted Parker about the offer and my feelings. Honestly, I'm more anxious right now. I'm worried that standing at the top with such a mindset will only make everyone uneasy. Parker calmly asked, "Do you have time now? It's your day off, right?" "Yes."
Then bring the highest quality textile sample you have to my house.
I rushed to get the best sample I was handling and went to Parker's house. When I showed him the sample, he smiled and said, "You've really come to understand, haven't you?"
Your experience in the field is evident. I think you'll be fine.
His words resonated with me. I felt recognized for the first time, and it was overwhelming. Thank you. I truly thank you. That gratitude gradually turned into confidence. Encouraged by Parker, I decided to accept my mother's wishes. I was anxious about what everyone would think of an inexperienced person like me getting promoted, but when I was actually promoted to manager, everyone was happier than I was.
Anderson, congratulations.
I'm as happy as if it were my own promotion.
It's about time.
I always wondered why you weren't in a managerial position until now. Congratulations.
Everyone, thank you. I might not know much beyond field work and might cause some trouble.
No trouble at all. We all know how much you contribute to the company. Don't worry, we'll support you wherever we can.
Thank you, really, thank you. The sound of applause was heartwarming. With my promotion to become a manager, the former manager was promoted to become a director. The sales department was again united, ready to move forward together. As a manager, I started taking a more active role in training and guiding the team. Although I've been asked by my younger colleagues to teach them, I was mostly out on the field and not often in the office. Especially, the new female employee whom I splurged on for Mother's Day seemed to have a lot of questions for me. I hadn't been able to teach much before, but now, I decided to share my knowledge and sales expertise with my juniors. Thanks to that, our company's performance has been on the rise. Yes, is there something else you're unsure about?
No, it's not that. Just, do you have a girlfriend, manager?
What? I was actually asked that question by that new female employee, leading to teasing from the others who'd say it looks like Anderson is finally going to have a sprain of his own. After several years of hard work, I was promoted to become a director, having been recognized for my performance as a manager. Initially, I was full of doubts about this role, but now I'm completely resolved to take over as the CEO when the time comes. This change in me is thanks to my mother, who has always worked hard since my childhood, Parker, whom I respect, and all my supportive colleagues. Their backing has become my confidence, contributing to the company's growth.
Anderson.
Mr. CEO, good to see you.
Good to see you too. How's the director position treating you?
I'm constantly realizing how much I still have to learn.
Haha, you're really modest, quite different from your mother.
The CEO and I occasionally go for drinks together. He has worked under my mother for a long time. I want to learn as much as I can from him now about his farts and the company's vision for the future. I don't want to rely on my mother's influence. I want to earn my place through my own abilities. Even if it's hard and humble work, I'm committed to it. Perhaps because of this attitude, the CEO shares various stories with me, including his experiences with my mother and his own failures. I also make sure to visit home occasionally and listen to my mother's advice.
You look much more mature and manly now. Maybe it's a parent's bias, but you seem so dependable.
Hearing her say that makes me feel like it's true. Until now, I've focused solely on field work and my own responsibilities. That was enough, and that's what was expected of me. But as my role and responsibilities grew, the perspective I needed changed. It's inevitable and something I must adapt to. Of course, I have to look at things from a higher level now. But it's also crucial to return to the ground level perspective, ensuring the staff's comfort and the appropriateness of human resources management. It's only because I've been on the field that I can think this way. My field experience has indeed broadened my horizon, yet I'm still inexperienced. Newly appointed as a director, the thought of succeeding as the CEO seems presumptuous. But for those who believe in me and follow me, I want to become confident and capable of that role as soon as possible. I still have much to learn from my mother, Parker, the CEO, and everyone else. I'll keep my feet on the ground and work to become a CEO who won't be ashamed of his roots. That's what I'm thinking now.
No way. A poor guy using his paid vacation to stay in such a luxury hotel. You don't know your place.
Boss, why are you here? Having been transferred to a new department, the new boss subjected me to unreasonable demands for overtime work, leaving me exhausted every day. However, I managed to book a reservation at a luxury hotel for my sick mom's birthday, a place filled with memories of my late dad. It was a hard-won paid vacation. As my mom and I arrived at the hotel, we were unexpectedly greeted by the unpleasant sight of my boss.
I overheard some folks in the department talking. I had business in this area, so I decided to see the shameless face of someone who takes time off during busy periods.
Did you come all the way here?
Yes, a loser taking time off like a normal person to travel with his mom. That's hilarious. You are mommy's boy who can't stay away from your mommy, huh? I thought I'd come to see the face of such a worthless man's mom. And in front of her, I plan to hand you your termination notice.
As I stood in shock, my mom, who had just finished using the restroom, appeared behind my boss.
Oh, this gentleman must be the boss. My son always mentions how much he's under your care.
Oh, you're the mom of the loser, aren't you?
The boss didn't know. He began to tremble when he saw that my mom's eyes were not smiling at all, and that he found out who she was. I am John Roberts, working for a major corporate group. Currently assigned to the sales department, I have a busy schedule, but enjoy fulfilling days with my colleagues. My dad passed away from illness when I was still young. Losing our breadwinner, my mom initially spent her days crying, but eventually took up work in place of my dad. Naturally, she became busier than ever. Even as a child, I understood how hard my mom worked. My mom came home just before I went to bed every day, and I put up with the feeling of being spoiled by her tired face. The helper took care of my meal and personal needs, but she often called me a patient and quiet child. Due to her busy schedule, my mom could never attend school events. My mom didn't come to the kindergarten's parents' day, the school's open day, and the sports day at my elementary school. Though I felt lonely, I never expressed these feelings to my mom. At the sports day, while my friends' families gathered together, I always ate my cold lunch alone.
Your mom couldn't make it again today. She should take a break from work for her child's big moments.
Even when friends' parents made such remarks, I replied, "It's okay." I told her not to push herself because she's busy with work. I was told sarcastically, "Well, you're quite mature for saying that. Children should be more spoiled, right? It's kind of a pity that you can't do that." Every family has its circumstances, yet some people blatantly pry into others' affairs. I couldn't understand it back then. Perhaps they pitied me as the poor child, wanting to feel their family was happier. I detested being subjected to such pitying looks at every school event. So, I put on a brave front. It's okay if my parents can't come. I'm not lonely. This attitude probably made me seem less childlike. My mom always apologized, saying, "I'm sorry, I can't make it. I'll try to arrange my work so I can attend next time." But I didn't want her to strain herself just for school events, knowing she was already exhausted from work. I was aware of how hard she worked for me, so I tried not to trouble her and focused on my studies. And I studied hard to make my mom happy. Ultimately, I was admitted to a prestigious private university on my first attempt. The university aimed to nurture globally minded individuals, emphasizing language skills and flexible thinking. Thanks to this, I believe I've become able to view things from a broader perspective. After graduating, I joined a company within a large corporate group. I didn't have a strong desire for promotion, and I wanted to experience various departments as an employee. At an age when holding managerial positions like supervisor or department head wouldn't be strange, I've always chosen to transfer whenever promotion talks came up, moving from one department to another. Learning about the various types of work, the people in different departments, and how everything was interconnected was enjoyable. Each time I made a transfer request, I was flattered by comments telling me how much they wished I would stay.
What? Sean, are you moving to another department? Did my comment about wanting you to become a department head upset you? If so, it's totally fine to stay on the same level. Just stay with us.
That's right. If you leave, our department is going to have a tough time. If you're worried about the workload, I'll work harder. So please don't go.
I'm very happy that everyone says so. I love this place too. But as pretentious as it might sound, I want to learn about all different kinds of work. So I thanked everyone. I felt guilty for causing such a fuss every time I submitted a transfer request. Despite the reluctance to leave, I continued to move from one department to the next. By the time I turned 30, I was assigned to the sales department. 2 years have passed since I came to this department. Then, I heard that a new department head was coming. This new boss, the same age as me, was the president's son, a so-called nepotism hire. I didn't mind the nepotism, but I heard he was quite assertive and not very popular in his previous department. I liked the atmosphere of our current workplace and hoped it wouldn't change. Unfortunately, my worries were confirmed. The new department head, named Eric Fumpson, was the eldest son of President Fumpson of our company. Although President Fumpson was strict with work, he was never arrogant. In contrast, Eric's attitude was terrible. On his first day, Eric announced loudly in front of everyone in the sales department,
"I came here to make this department the top performer in the company's history and to boost the company's success. There's only value in increasing sales. Anyone whose sales drop from the previous month will be immediately moved elsewhere. I have no use for those without motivation in this department."
Everyone exchanged glances, and Eric, noticing me, pointed and added his sarcastic comment.
Especially those without ambition are out of the question. Being satisfied with current sales figures means you don't belong here. Aim to double the number of new contracts from last month. Participation in competitions should be more than doubled. Anyone who can't follow my orders will be fired on the spot.
From that moment, our overtime hell began. No matter how much we sped up our work, the endless stream of additional tasks meant none of us could leave on time. In addition, no matter how much you work, we won't be paid overtime. It's so-called unpaid overtime. Everyone was understandably frustrated. I came in early and worked through lunch without much of a break. When I tried to leave just after the official end of the workday, Eric quickly spotted me and made a snide remark.
Are you planning to leave while everyone else is still working? Not finishing work is a collective responsibility. If you're done early, it's only natural to help the others.
In the end, I couldn't leave early. There was a reason I wanted to leave early. My mom, who had been overworking for years, collapsed last month. She was diagnosed with leukemia, a type of blood cancer, at the hospital. Basically, it's a cancer of the blood. She was given a year to live and is now hospitalized. Visiting hours end at 8 p.m., and I need to leave by 7 p.m. to see her. I wanted to visit her at least once a week, so I explained my situation to Eric, hoping to leave work early. However, my request was denied.
If you want to prioritize taking care of your parent, you might as well quit right now.
Stunned by his merciless words, I held back from arguing. But I knew if I got in the same boat with him, I was finished, so I held my ground. Mom, how are you feeling? I was planning to visit today, but I couldn't get away from work. I'm sorry. I'll try to at least bring you some food later. I apologized to her through a message. Suddenly, I remembered the loneliness of not having my mom at school events because she was too busy with work. What am I doing? I'm doing the same thing to my mom. The realization filled me with guilt. God, was my mom feeling the same way back then? I want to go see you, but I can't. It's not just the one who isn't visited who feels lonely. The one who can't visit feels just as lonely. I realized that. Additionally, my mom is currently tormented by a severe illness, so she must feel even more helpless than I did back then. Yet, what am I doing? I became incredibly ashamed of myself. Probably because I was thinking such things, I must have had a very dark expression on my face. The colleague who caused me to stay late looked at me apologetically.
John, I'm sorry.
It's all right. We're both busy after all.
Really, I'm sorry. I'll make it up to you sometime.
Oh, I'll be looking forward to it. As we bantered lightly, we continued with our work. Then, the boss who had been loudly directing us had disappeared at some point.
When did the boss leave? Unbelievable.
Seriously, he dumps so much work on us, and then just leisurely goes home.
This job seems like something the boss forced into existence, doesn't it? It's unbelievable.
How long will these days soaked in work continue? It may be about time I requested a transfer to a different department.
As soon as the boss was out of sight, everyone in the staff room, staying late for work, began to speak ill of him. Well, I feel the same, but let's take this opportunity to review the workflow and distribute the tasks for better efficiency. Anyway, we can't go home until we finish the work.
Yes, let's keep going.
Then, everyone started discussing their areas of expertise, advancing a division of labor so that each could handle the parts they were best at. As a result, work progressed much more than expected, and we were able to finish much earlier than anticipated.
Yay, it's done.
Phew, now I can finally go home. I really want to take a shower.
John, thanks a lot. If you hadn't suggested optimizing our work, we might still be only halfway done by now.
Amidst everyone's joy, I opened up about my mom being hospitalized due to illness. I then asked them that I wanted to take a day off.
That's tough. Sure, let's help you out.
Of course. You've been taking care of us all this time. How could we not return the favor now?
Everyone. In fact, I had booked a reservation at a luxury hotel where I used to stay often with my dad when I was young for my mom's upcoming birthday. I desperately wanted to spend time with my mom, who had only a short time left, in that memorable hotel. The doctor in charge of my mom was somewhat reluctant to allow her to stay overnight outside, but permitted it on the condition that she stays in a room with proper air conditioning and avoids contact with an unspecified number of people. I resolved myself and applied for paid time off to my boss. Then he said, a low-level employee using paid day off, "You must be living the high life." I was taken aback. But, well, you've been working hard lately. Go take a break for once. My application was surprisingly accepted smoothly, and I was able to take the time off.
John, it's finally tomorrow. Do some good for your mom, huh? And you blow off your daily fatigue.
Sure thing. Leave everything else to me.
Take care on your trip.
My colleagues sent me off, and I headed to a hotel in the suburbs of New York with my mom.
Wow, this hotel brings back memories. It hasn't changed much from back then.
My mom happily looked around the hotel. My face naturally broke into a smile. Come to think of it, it had been years since I took a trip with just my mom. I regretted that I should have traveled to many places with her earlier. While my mom went to the restroom, I sat in a chair in the lobby, leisurely viewing the hotel garden. Then, a familiar voice echoed. Yes, it was Thompson, my boss.
No way. A poor man staying at such a luxury hotel. Talk about not knowing your place.
Boss, why are you here?
I overheard the guys in the department talking. I just happened to have business in this area, so I thought I'd come and see your face.
Going out of your way for this?
Yay. It's part of the job. It's the job of cleaning out the company's dead wood.
I felt the blood drain from my entire body.
You're incompetent, so you've been passed around departments for years, haven't you? To not have any position at your age, you are useless, cuh. And now, a deadbeat like you taking leave like any regular Joe to go on a trip with your mom, that's laughable. You are still a mama's boy, unable to detach from mommy. I wanted to see the face of the mom who raised such a failure, and in front of her, I'd serve you your termination notice. Oh, I can't wait to see the shock and panic on your faces.
As I stood there, stunned by his words, my mom, having finished in the restroom, somehow appeared behind the boss. Mom. Then, the boss, seeing my mom, grinned and said,
"Oh, you're the mom of the loser, aren't you?"
With a smile that didn't reach her eyes, my mom responded to my boss's sarcasm, "Oh, are you my son's boss? It seems my son, John, has been under your care quite a bit, hasn't he?" My mother is pretending to be smiling, but her eyes are not smiling. Yes, my mom was very angry.
It seems you're under some misunderstanding, so let me clarify. My son has been requesting department transfers voluntarily. After all, he's my son. It's only right he gets a grasp of the entire company structure now.
What are you talking about, old lady? Sick in the head from your illness?
I could tell by my mom's expression that the boss Thompson had stepped on a landmine. My mom despises this type of unreasonable person.
I heard you're Mr. Thompson's son, but you're quite rude, aren't you? Hey John, could you please call Mr. Thompson over here?
My dad's the company president. A mere employee like you can't just summon him.
Oh, but your company falls under our umbrella. Leaving such a rude manager unchecked, we must provide proper guidance, shouldn't we?
Yes, that's right. In fact, my mom is the CEO and chairperson of the Roberts Group, which owns a large corporation. My mom was a top career woman in her youth before marrying my dad, the company president. Initially, the company was stable, but after the bubble burst, it began to falter. My dad tried to revive the company, but passed away suddenly from illness due to overwork. However, my mom was the one who turned it around. Thanks to her efforts, our company saw rapid growth. Stock prices soared, and we opened many branches, eventually growing into a large corporate group. Honestly, I can't think of anyone who can match my mom's managerial skills.
Roberts. You're not possibly from the Roberts Group.
Yes, I'm May Roberts, the chairperson of the Roberts Group.
That's ridiculous.
And to add, John is a member of the Roberts Group's board. The future of your company could be decided by his word.
What? No way.
In the quiet hotel lobby, Thompson's foolish voice echoed,
You may be working hard for the company, but that's not good, is it? A lifetime ago, you might still have passed, but now the times are different. What you're doing is a violation of labor laws. Imagine if your employees become ill from overwork and can't return home. Have you considered how their families would feel?
I understand that, but you can't increase company sales with just ideals. You're out of touch with the field, so that you can speak such idealistic nonsense.
The boss objected to my mom, but unpaid overtime is forbidden nowadays, and overtime hours are strictly regulated. If an employee falls ill from the company's unreasonable overtime directives and it's treated as a work-related accident, the Labor Standards Inspection Office would get involved. That he could call himself a boss without knowing such basics was beyond me. Probably a connection higher, hence not studying the essentials needed for management.
I understand your perspective. I'll report this to the president. Of course, your treatment will also be thoroughly reviewed.
Wait, hold on a minute.
Why? You must take responsibility for the words you utter. Didn't you learn that in management training? Plus, you're not cut out to be a boss. A person fit to be a boss should properly understand their subordinates' movements and work content. Besides, you've said and done a lot of things that are harassing, right? I wouldn't trust someone like that with an important department.
No way.
The boss, apparently despondent, dropped his shoulders and left the hotel lobby. Even though he was swearing at me in front of my mom and begging to be fired, he seems to have received dozens of times more retribution. I do feel a tad sorry for him, but he reaped what he sowed. He should properly face the consequences. Afterwards, my mom and I enjoyed some quality time together, just the two of us. She reminisced about the lake she used to visit with my dad and shared various memories. She also mentioned that should anything happen to her, she wants me to take over. I have reservations about being the chairman of big group company, but it's a place my mom expanded, continuing my dad's legacy. I've resolved to do all I can. Upon returning my mom to the hospital, we encountered our company's president, Thompson, and his son, my boss. When they greeted my mom, they apologized for their disrespect.
Chairwoman Roberts, despite not knowing, my son has been extremely disrespectful. We deeply apologize.
My boss joined in.
I have been incredibly disrespectful to both you, Chairwoman, and John. I am truly sorry.
My boss shared that being the president's son meant he was often looked down upon as just the president's kid or just a nepotism hire, striving desperately to prove them wrong. In his seal, he admitted to having lost sight of what was truly important.
Mr. Thompson, you see, after my husband passed away, I took over as president of a nearly bankrupt company. What can a woman do? Or she's too arrogant for a female president. I've been told harsh things by employees and business partners alike. I even had a trusted employee run off with the company's earnings. So I became determined not to lose, working tirelessly. Although the company survived, it came at the cost of making my son feel lonely. It's not just about sales. Creating a comfortable working environment for our employees is crucial. Efficient work requires family support, right? Always remember, behind every employee is our family. The real essence of a company is the happiness of its employees and their families.
You're right, Chairwoman Roberts. I thought I was facing my employees with the same sentiment, but my son misunderstood. His actions are my responsibility as well. We've decided to relieve the boss of his duties and send him to a subsidiary to relearn everything from scratch.
That might be for the best. John has been moving through departments without revealing he's my kin, right? I recommend this approach. Let him see how far he can go on his merit in places where his title won't help him.
So, he is the famous John Roberts. I was curious about the person who is sought after by many departments. To think he's the chairwoman's son. Impressive indeed.
As the president praised me, Boss Thompson looked contrite.
Listen, Eric, I recognize your passion. From now on, don't worry about how others see you, and do what you believe in. You'll start to see things differently.
Thank you for your kind words, even to someone like me. I'll change my attitude and strive to meet your expectations, Chairwoman.
I'm looking forward to it.
Mr. Thompson and his son greeted my mom and left the hospital room. Hey, Mom.
What is it?
I was really happy.
What?
You said I was a bother, but I was truly happy having you. I know all you've done for me, even in your busy schedule, and how you've always cared for me. I'm happy to be your son.
Oh, thank you.
My mom quietly shed tears. If you could live even a little longer, I could be even happier. So please, Mom, try to live a long life.
Yes, I want to do so many more things with you, John. I'll do my best.
I held my mom's hand, praying earnestly that our wishes would come true. And even if they didn't, I hoped for my mom to spend her remaining time in peace, without suffering. And our prayers were answered. A few days later, we received a call from the bone marrow bank that a matching donor for my mom had been found. Thanks to this, my mom, who was told she had only 1 year to live, was successfully miraculously recovered. Watching my mom regain her strength day by day, I couldn't help but shed tears of joy.
Just like you said, John, I'll live a long life. So you have to be happy too, okay?
Yay, of course. My mom successfully left the hospital and has now fully returned to her duties as chairwoman. According to her, she can't leave everything to me just yet. As for me, influenced by my mom, I'm now the boss of human resources. This is to fulfill my mom's wish that the company look at its employees from a broad perspective and eventually make its employees and their families happy. I'm working hard to improve the company's welfare and create an environment where employees can work easily. My former boss, who was transferred to a branch office, has been working hard with his new mind. He must have been overwhelmed by the pressure of being the president's son. I'd like to work with him, who grew out of his shell someday. Work is an essential part of life, taking up a third of one's existence. Rather than mindlessly enduring a job you hate, it would be great if the time spent at the company could be a meaningful social life, including communication and learning with others. When I say things like this, I'm often accused of spouting idealistic nonsense and ignoring the company's profits. But someday, this approach will benefit the entire company. One's happiness cannot be bought by career or money. Feeling needed, receiving praise, and finding fulfillment in your work motivates someone to strive positively. I aim to continue striving to create the kind of company my mom envisions, where working feels like a source of happiness.